John Lilliufia said, it is the disposition of the thought that alter the nature of the thing. The disposition of the thought that altereth the nature of the thing. It's how we think. When I was 40 years old, I was on an airplane, and I was sitting next to a guy, and I asked him, you make small talk with people. I said, so what do you do? And he said, I build spacecrafts. And I'm thinking, do. You know what you're thinking when this happens? I mean, I'm thinking, sure, you build spacecrafts. And he said, no, and he gave me his business card, and he has 3,500 employees reporting to him. And he legitimately built spaceships. And as we were sitting there talking, I said, what's your biggest challenge in your profession? He said, I can't get my engineers to think big. I can't get them to think bigger than they think. And I asked him what he meant, and he said, well, think about it. He goes, we thought if you were to attempt to try to travel faster than the speed of sound, you would explode. Your body would explode. And it didn't. Physics said it would, but it didn't. He said, if we can travel faster than the speed of sound, why can't we travel faster than the speed of thought? And I laughed, and he said, that's the problem. And I'm a guy that's always telling people you can do anything. And I caught myself and basically said, shame on me for laughing at something that's thinking bigger. Thinking bigger. He asked me what I did, and I talked about building teams of people. And he said this, he said, my challenge is to challenge my engineers to defy the laws of physics. That's his job, to challenge his engineers to defy the laws of physics. And I sat there and I started thinking, think about us. We don't have to defy anything. Nothing. Our task is much simpler than that. All we have to do is embrace the laws of success. And if you do some research, Sun Tzu was a Chinese philosopher, and then he became a general. And he wrote a book 2,500 years ago called The Art of War. And I guess I would say if you want to win in your life, if you want to win, you've got to understand these principles of success that are historic. You don't have to defy anything. You embrace them. They were written down 2,500 years ago on bamboo tablets. Sun Tzu said, now in order to kill the enemy, our men must be roused to anger. For them to perceive the advantage of defeating the enemy, they must also have their rewards. Thus, when you capture spoils from the enemy, they must also be used as rewards so that all your men may have a keen desire to fight each on his own account. George Washington wrote, when men are irritated and the passions inflamed, they fly hastily to arms. But after the first emotions are over, to expect among such people that compose the bulk of an army that they are influenced by any other principle than those of interest is to look for what never did and I fear never will happen. Whether it's George Washington or Sun Tzu 2,500 years ago. It's simple. It's why do you do it? Because you can get excited in a meeting. Listen, I know, I don't want, I'm tired too. But I don't want this to end. I really don't want this to end. I want to be with you. I love the warmth that comes with being with leaders. I love the warmth and the comfort and the knowledge that know when you're with leaders. But Sun Tzu talked about it. George Washington wrote about it. Get people excited. It doesn't last. But it's not about excitement. It's about commitment, and commitment comes when you know why. Andy Andrews, everybody you've heard has talked about why. Why do you do something? Why do you do something? Have you ever heard that statement? I wrote a book called Living to Win, and there's a statement, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. That's just not true. It does matter how you play the game. Of course, if you cheat, it's not called winning anyway. It's called cheating. So it has nothing to do with winning and losing. It has everything to do with cheating. But folks, I'm going to tell you, it matters whether you win. Winning matters. Statistically, it matters. More divorces happen when people don't win. People get sicker when they don't win. If you just follow this, winning does make a difference. If you were going into surgery and there was a 50-50 chance of it being successful, and your family gathered and they made the calls to the relatives, your kids and the distant relatives, and they all showed up because there's a 50-50 chance of this being successful. The last thing you want at that moment, if you're 29 or 39 or 49 or 69 years old, the last thing you want is the doctor coming into your office and saying, it doesn't matter. I'll do my best. But, it is 50-50. You want a surgeon with some swagger. You want a surgeon with some confidence. You want a surgeon that's willing to look at you and say, we're going to win. You can count on me. Winning does matter. When I was in my plane crash, December 14th, 1996, thank God I had a pilot that wanted to get home. Thank God I had a pilot that wanted to win. It does make a difference. Sun Tzu also said, the general who wins battles makes many calculations in his temple before the battle is even fought. The general who loses battles makes but few calculations beforehand. Why do you think we have events? Why do you think we have conference calls? Why do you think your mentors ask you to come to their home for trainings? Why do you think that when there's information to get, we all go get it? Because we're making calculations before the battles. And look, I'm not naive. I know technically we're not talking about war. I get that. But my goodness gracious, you're fighting every day of your life to do better. There's still a fight. You're still facing something. You're facing those opportunities to improve. Why do you think we say share the mission 15 times a month? Share the mission 15 times a month. Just keep looking forward. Keep looking forward. You have to, nothing happens by accident. Success is on purpose. 2,500 years ago on bamboo tablets, it was about the general that wins many battles, makes many calculations. You plan for these things. You do these things on purpose. Sun Tzu also wrote, the general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service to his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom. Stay humble. Just stay humble. I've told you the story about my dad. My first month, forget how much it was, but it was a lot for a 35-year-old kid. And my dad called me up and said, I'm proud of you. That's awesome. But let me give you some advice. Thinking he was going to give me financial advice for this great month I had in my life. And he said, the more money you make, the more people will tell you how great you are. Jimbo, you're not that good. And then he said, the more money you make, the more people will criticize you. And you're not that bad either. If you remember who you are and where you come from and be kind to people, everything works out. The reality about what we do is we edify each other. We tell each other how great we are. You're awesome. No, you're awesome. No, you're awesome. We tell each other how great we are. I'd rather be around a group like that than tearing each other down. Amen. Right? But here's the truth. Appreciate it, value it, and let it go. Seriously, it's dangerous because the truth is none of us are that good. None of us, but we're great together. You can't defeat an army of people convicted knowing where they're going in their life. We're great together. Sun Tzu talked about negativity. Odd. 2,500 years ago on bamboo tablets, Sun Tzu wrote, vacillation and fussiness are the surest means of sapping the confidence of an army. Oh, have you ever had anybody in your group or in your upline that saw the sky's always falling, it's never going to work? Oh, you ever had anybody like that? You don't have to acknowledge it because they may be looking at you. But if you've ever had anybody like that, I'm telling you right now, vacillation and fussiness, being negative. That doesn't mean being concerned. That doesn't mean having genuine, sincere challenges and problems you want to talk to somebody about. That just means complaining all the time about nothing. Complaining for the sake of complaining. There are people in the world that complain for the sake of complaining. And when you say, well, change it, do whatever you want to do, they say, no, I'd rather complain. But it's the surest way to stop an army in its tracks.